Yeah, it's being recorded. Okay, welcome everybody to our CPEC presentation on bridging the gap, one officer at a time. And I'm going to throw it over to our CPEC chair, Tanya Hardaway from TCC. Take it away, Tanya.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. I want to thank you guys for being here with us this morning for our guest presenter, Ms. Faustina McKinney. Faustina is a native of Georgia. She embodies the vision of hope, encouragement, and versatility. She has a master's in education with a concentration in curriculum and instruction and a minor in adolescent literacy. In addition, she holds a bachelor's of science in social work. She has led research projects that discourage zero tolerance initiatives within school districts as part of the No Child Left Behind consortium. Additionally, Ms. McKinney has over 16 years of experience in human services and education experience. She has worked with at-risk youth, foster care, law enforcement, magistrates, juvenile courts, and high and low-level risk offenders. Currently, she is the District Inmate Services Manager overseeing the Vocational Department of Corrections project under the leadership of Kimberly Moore, the Vice President of Workforce Innovation here at TCC. The project now has over 15 continuing workforce education programs operating within the Florida Department of Corrections. Through the partnership with the FDC, over 1,600 industry recognized certifications have been awarded to transitioning offenders. Ms. McKinney believes that education is a vehicle for reform, balance, success, and prosperity. So Faustina, when you take it away when you'd like to.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity with the Vocational Department of Corrections project under the Division of Workforce Development. My leader is Vice President Kimberly Moore. We are excited for this opportunity to bring insight to everyone that's here within this meeting on what the Vocational Department of Corrections project embodies and why we do what we do. The great aspect that I want to be able to indicate is that our need is proficient, and what we're noticing is that there's a greater need for reentry services, and the initiatives are being put in place, and there are many, many avenues and many stakeholders within Leon, Gaston, Wakulla counties, the metropolitan area to be exact. There are many things that are being put in place to reassist those individuals who are justice involved returning back into our communities. I have put together a PowerPoint presentation for you all to see if I have permission to share. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes. Yes, we
Okay.
can see it.
Okay. And basically, and there's some music that was added for a different aspect, but I don't want it to drown out so you all can be able to hear me. So please bear with me in this format. The Vocational Department of Corrections project, we're building the gap one offender at a time. We are in partnership with the Florida Department of Corrections, Tallahassee Community College, and the Envision was built to build a community-based partnership back in 2017. Vice President of our Workforce Development, Kimberly Moore, she and Robert Milgard and April Callan with Florida Department of Corrections decided to collaborate and partner to bring career and technical education programs to incarcerated individuals. By 2019, Tallahassee Community College had career and technical education programs at Quincy Annex, Gadsden Reentry, Taylor Correctional, Jefferson Correctional, and Liberty Correctional institutions. Since our partnership in 2017, we have grown. And this is what our project looks like right now. We have 7 institutions and up to 15 programs. We're in Gadsden Reentry, Jefferson Correctional, Liberty, Quincy, Taylor, Wakulla, and Franklin. And we have several programs and positions that we embody. We provide an entrepreneurship instructor for all our facilities to work with them to open up their own businesses and to use their credentialing process to be business owners and to add more into their communities. We have a program logistics coordinator who oversees our programs. We have a program specialist as well as success coach that works with our programs. And under each area, we have a case management component to where we provide each inmate that's within 180 days of going home with the case management component. And I will show you the different reentry and initiative services that we provide them. But we follow our inmates even after, and we call them our inmate students, even after they leave our program up to a year, to ensure that they have all that they need and to be self-sufficient and to lower the recidivism rates of those returning after release from prison. As you can see, I wanted to give you some facts about Florida prisons here. Florida has the 3rd largest prison population in the United States, with over 100,000 in state prison. The inmates serve generally 5 years in state prison on average. There are racial and ethnic minorities that are overrepresented in the prison population, with African American males making up nearly half of the prison population. And as you can see, 72% of state prisoners test at or below a GED or 9th grade level, and 17% receive ongoing mental health care while they are incarcerated. Prior incarcerations in a Florida prison, generally 52.6% have no prior incarceration. The smaller majority with 4 or more incarcerations are 8%, 3 prior incarcerations are 6%, 2 priors 11.2%, and 1 prior commitment 21.6%. So what this states is that generally a lot of the individuals who are justice involved end up going to prison at a higher rate than those that have offended before. With any programming out, we do have barriers that we must overcome. And I wanted to show you the various barriers that you will see within the pipeline that we built from school to prison, from prison to going into school. Some of them view that change as a threat instead of an opportunity. So we have 4 barriers that we have to overcome when we provide our inmates with programming or programs that are geared towards their return back into society. One of the first areas is systemic. And a systemic barrier occurs when practices or policies are put in place that discriminate against individuals by screening them out from participation. And we oftentimes deal with that, whereas they need them on a job site within the prison, or they need them to go into a different program. So generally, our programs are extremely, 20 to 30% less participation because of the systemic barriers that are put in place at the institutional level. Then we have physical barriers that exist. And these are structural environments that interfere with or impedes the person's physical disabilities or assessing a particular location or service. So the physical barriers, they may not be mentally or physically capable of going through a 600-hour or 750-hour course to be able to complete and obtain their credentials necessary to enter into the industry. Another area may be communication, where the communication barriers where they exist when an individual is unable to access information in a format that they can use, or forms of communication included Braille, or they need to have large print, or they need closed caption videos, or they need assistance or longer times on tests. We do have communication barriers where there may be a developmental delay or a deficit with their learning capabilities. Then the last, in which I'm sure you all would probably be familiar with, would be their attitudes. And they have beliefs or they have perceptions about a person's ability based on their lack of direct knowledge. Oftentimes they come in with levels or understanding that they've learned in their communities, or they've learned within a gang, or they've learned in their homes, and they may have been a dysfunctional environment. But these can be the hardest areas to address, in spite of the fact that there are the most that you may be able to overcome. Do anyone have any questions before I move on to the next slide? Okay. I wanted you all to know who do we serve. The persona of the inmates that we serve are generally Black, white, or Hispanic males, convicted felons, of course, ages 18 to 34. Majority of them do have undiagnosed mental illnesses. They're victims of child abuse. They have opioid addictions, generally high school dropouts with 5th grade levels of education or lower. They generally do have gang affiliations, have either been career criminals or youthful offenders. So they've been brought up in the criminal justice system since they were younger or teenagers. The other mindsets that we have to overcome, there are 4 different personality types of individuals that you will find in the prison setting or in the correctional setting. The first being the entitled. The entitled personality, they believe that they're entitled to some form of superior treatment, regardless of their own contribution to society, situations, or even circumstances. They tend to have a narcissistic belief system that they're owed something, and they're either their mindset, they have it's real in what they believe, or it's perceived based on prior criminal behaviors. No matter what they do in life, this is the most second common personality type that we have found among the criminals, both on and off the street. The entitled criminals generally will always try to justify why they committed their crimes. The second would be the bully. And I'm sure we all familiar with the word bully. The bully believes that anything in life can be achieved either through physical or verbal abuse. They oftentimes have low self-esteem. They see themselves as a smart, street smart, or physically superior individual. This personality type oftentimes is most often seen in prison as well. And bullies will resort to any means necessary, whether it be yelling, physical violence, to get what they need. The third is the self-righteous. The self-righteous believe that everything they do is for the betterment of society. They often live in their own bubble or their own world with little contact among those who don't think the way that they do. This type has convinced themselves, however, that they're always right, and when the facts even say otherwise. Then there's the sheep personality. The sheeps will do anything to be a part of a group. This is probably one of the most dangerous personalities that we see or encounter in corrections. Sheep believe that if they adopt their friends' goals or their bunkmates' goals and desires and help them to realize no matter what the consequences are, they will be loved. Oftentimes the sheep have low self-esteem or feel unwanted and feel unloved. For them, the only way out with the sheep is self-realization. And this often doesn't happen until very late in life. When these people realize that their entire life was spent pleasing people without personal or professional reward, oftentimes you run into the sheep, meaning that these are the ones that reoffend and continue to reoffend. I've been in corrections since 2005, and the highest level of, and the way that their Department of Corrections numbers are outlined, they come in with a numerical number on their first time coming into prison. Anytime they reoffend, their numerical number in front of it would be an alphabet, which is A. A means that that's their second time returning to prison. The highest alphabet that I have seen in my time in the very institutions I've been in prior to my time coming to Department of Corrections with TCC, I've been in 4 different institutions and 3 different populations of inmates, that being youthful offenders, adult males, and adult females. And the highest letter that I have seen, which is generally probably your sheep personality, has been a P. So that means that this individual has been in and out of the prison sector for a very long time. And oftentimes what you find is they get institutionalized and they get stuck where they are and they don't seem to find a way out. And what we're in hopes of obtaining and seeing is that our programs and our best practices and our reentry services will catch the entitled. It will catch the bully, the self-righteous, and the sheep at that cross in the road and help them to get on the right path to not reoffending or not returning back to prison. Oftentimes the grade levels of state prison populations are extremely low. And I wanted you all to see the tested education levels of state prison population. Every inmate that enters into the Department of Corrections will be TABE tested. They will be tested to learn what their reading capabilities are, their math and language capabilities are. The average reading level of prison inmates, as I stated before, is below 5th grade. About 67% of prison inmates cannot read, they cannot write, they can't read a map, they can't understand a bus schedule. 20% of those adults who have been in prison education program are reincarcerated, oftentimes because they lack that educational component. High school dropouts are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested in their lifetimes or return back to prison. Florida prison to inmate statistics. And I wanted to share with you about the racial disparities that you will see. As I stated before, that the Black population or Black inmate population have a higher probability of going to prison versus any other race. There are disparities. Over 47% of the men and women in Florida prisons are Black. The Bureau of Justice Statistics reports that 38% are Black, 35 are white, and 21 are Hispanic. Any questions before I move on? Thank you. When I was talking about the pathways, meeting them at the crossroad and creating pathways to second chances, because I believe regardless of whether they have an A letter or they have a P letter, there are best practices that can give them a second chance to be able to do what's necessary and to be law-abiding citizens and be a contributing member to their communities. The concept that we believe should be aligned with positive behavioral concepts that lead to civic responsibility and core values. What we've embodied with the Vocational Department of Corrections project under the Department of Workforce Development is that we believe that you have to cover the whole person. You can't just provide them with education. You have to provide them with mental, physical, spiritual, and any other pathways that will help them to be whole. Because there are aspects that they deal with outside of coming to our classrooms. There are various aspects that they deal with within their dorms, within their homes, back into their communities, family, children, etc. So we provide relevant literature, quality educators, and teaching tools that will foster success. We establish program goals, learning objectives, monitor as well as measure those outcomes and whether those outcomes are effective. And we don't have a problem. We go right back to the drawing board, because if we determine with our data trends that the outcomes are not effective, then we need to put more practices into place to ensure that we are fostering success. We influence competency-based completions that generate gainful employment, apprenticeships, as well as certifications, because it is important that they have credentials. It is important that they have skills, on-the-job skills, they have knowledge, skills, and abilities. We also want to make sure that they're prepared for variations in outcomes and never compromise our funding in the process, because we realize with those barriers that we were discussing, whether they're physical, whether they're communication, whether they're systemic, whether they're attitudes, we want to be prepared for those barriers and those variations that may come, but we also want to maintain the funding that we have, which is extremely necessary to provide these inmate students with a means to be able to return back into their society. We believe that engaged learning in a prison environment is extremely important. Engaging incarcerated students is important to their success within the college, and we must create long-term goals as well as a mindset to keep them motivated beyond the course. This is one of our CTE instructors that stated that. So the goal is to allow them to enter our programs, and when they enter our programs, not just enter the programs, but to have short-term, long-term, as well as mediocre goals that will be associated with their learning, that they will have an involvement. And it's not just them sitting in a classroom, but they will have an involvement in what their next is going to look like. We embody that education is truly the key. As indicated before, 55% of offenders who obtain a GED return to prison. But 30% of those offenders who obtain a vocation or a trade return to prison. So as you can see, as the education component raises, the probability of returning to prison lowers. So if an inmate student obtains an associate's degree, then their reoffending rate has dropped from 55% to 13.7%. If they obtain their bachelor's, it's from 55% to 5.6%. A master's, 0%. So if someone receives the opportunity to learn an industrial skill, acquire knowledge in a specialized field, they not only do not rarely return to prison, but they also go on to build businesses, create jobs, and inspire their local communities. Do you have any questions before I move to the next slide?
Ms. McKinney, yes, I do. Hi, how are you? Thank you so
Hi.
much. Hi, this information is illuminating for me. And thank you so much for providing it. My question is, in terms of assessing the offenders when they come into your program, I know that you said that I think either your program or the prison system in Florida, they use a TABE test.
Yes, sir.
To assess their academic abilities. But are there any other sorts of tests that they use to assess their behavioral patterns or their psychological abilities? That's
Yes,
my
sir.
question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. There is a what they call a CNS process where they determine if there is any prior substance use issues, if they have any type of IEP prior to coming to the prison, to determine if there is a learning incapability or there is a learning concern, or if they have special needs that need to be addressed. They also look at their mental health. If there has been a prior diagnosis, they are screened by a mental health professional using a psychosocial assessment. They do have IOP programs that are offered when they do determine that they do have mental health or substance abuse. They have to enter into those programs. All of that is figured in when they go through the reception process. When an inmate goes from being sentenced by the judge and they are transitioned into a reception center, and at the reception center, they go through all of those screenings within those 30 days before they're sent to their main prison to determine what their needs are and what programs are vital and need to be applied while they're doing their time. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Rogers. When you ask an inmate, why did I reoffend and why did I return to prison? These were questions that many professionals that work in the correctional setting wanted to know. And we wanted to know how to gauge their probability of returning and why was it so high in many years. And what we found was that one of the things that the inmates stated was there was a lack of rehabilitation programs while they were incarcerated, which is why you're seeing, and as I told Mr. Williams, that's why they have added so many modality and mental health programs and services being offered, because they found out that there was a lack, and that the recidivism rate was so high. There was a time when the recidivism rate was at 60-some%. Now we're down to 20+% for the state of Florida, and it's only a tad bit higher for the nation. The second was they were addicted to substances, whether it be drugs or alcohol. So once again, that was something that they put into place and decided that they needed to intervene in that regard. The third area was anger management concerns or problems with authority, which comes back to those barriers, the attitude and the personality types that I explained to you. So they put in Thinking for a Change and Compass 100 programs, and they put in they have individuals that come in and can volunteer in the prisons, and they come in and do anger management, 24/7 dads. They have a new one that has come out that they're working with them of overcoming barriers and being able to do things differently. They call it the why, the why try training. The fourth area was a lack of social skills. Many of you know that a lot of our skill sets are learned behaviors. So if they're coming up in a dysfunctional or an abusive environment, then they're learning those same social skills, and there's usually a lack thereof of social skills or soft skills that would be necessary to maintain jobs or to be great parents or to be contributing members in their societies. So they decided to add more programming in that area. And the fifth area, which is how you have college programs in prisons and other programs being offered. The state does offer education programs as well. There was a failure to obtain a GED or a vocational trade. Many of you know, many years ago, it would be where you can work in fast food without having those trades or GED, but now even the fast food chains in the lower level jobs are at least expecting you to have a high school diploma, if nothing more, or GED. So what we indicated was that Florida's recidivism rate was at about 33%, and here lately it has dropped in the 20s, which means that 1 out of every 3 inmates released from prison returned within 3 years. So what they gauge it as, within 3 years, they're going to come back because of one of the 5 areas that we found as their probability of why they reoffended. So this recidivism rate within 3 years of release increases to 65% after 5 years. To me, that is alarming. So the researchers found that inmates who participated in correctional education programs had a 43% probability or lower odds of returning to prison than those who do not. So we are seeing that there is an increase in programs in prisons related to ensure that that recidivism rate is at a lower level. Are there any questions about recidivism? Okay, thank you. One of our students believed that in order for him to be successful for himself and his children, he needed to be a hero in their eyes. And what I believe that is, hope is achievable and is often reimagined. And when they have that type of hope, they don't imagine how it's going to come to pass. That is where professionals in our sectors come into place to make sure that we give them the hope that they need to achieve their goals in life. Because every inmate wants to be a hero in their children's eyes. The enrollment criteria, and as I was speaking before, these are the specifications that we look for the individuals who will enroll in our programs. We look to see that there is a high school diploma or GED, that they have TAPE scores, TAPE 11, 12 scores with the level of 4 or higher. And generally this is about 7th, 8th grade. The tentative release date, the offender is within 2 years of being released from prison. And let me tell you why we changed it, because it used to be 3 to 4 years. We changed it to within 2 years and lower is because we want to be able to see those credentials being used in our community. We want to be able to impact that rate of unemployment in our areas. We want to be able to see that we are adding more jobs to the metropolitan area, adding more jobs to the state of Florida alone. And we also want to ensure that we are not dealing with disciplinary concerns, because it's hard to be able to run a classroom when you have disciplinary issues within your group. So the disciplinary history that we look for, we don't want there to be any major disciplinary infractions or concerns within the last year or so. Another aspect that we have added, this is for enrollment into our mainstream programs. These are our program hour programs, whether it be 600 hours or 750 hours. One of the things that Vice President Moore and myself embodied was that we realized that we may not be able to target every inmate in the institution because the inmates may not meet this criteria that you see on the screen. But we wanted to be able to provide them with some means that they will be able to have jobs once they leave the prison. So what we developed with the Department of Corrections in this fiscal year was that we did a job credentialing program. And these are inmates that may or may not have a high school diploma, but they need to have at least a level, NRS level 3 or higher, which is about 5th grade. That they can enter and they can obtain an OSHA 10 certification and a core certification, which they will have mainstream industry credentials to enter into a construction setting. So we're going to target, as well as the construction setting, we also are targeting those individuals who will be able to obtain ServSafe if they want to go into the hospitality industry, up to 120 inmates that are outside of our regular mainstream programming. Any questions about our enrollment criteria or our job credentialing assignments? Thank you. What we believe is you reach one person, you can teach another. And this is our 5 key reentry model specification. And we look at 5 pertinent areas. The first being we utilize a universal assessment and coaching tool to identify needs and overcome barriers. Now, these are for those that are in our program. As I stated before, we have a case management component. So we do an assessment outside of the assessments that are done at the institutional level and determine what their individual needs are going home. And we utilize that and we pair that with a success coach that helps them to overcome those barriers. The second thing we do is we develop a multi-level behavioral support model for each student inmate to influence success, as well as ensure that they end our programs successfully, they complete. The third component is develop individualized programmatic success plans for each inmate students. So we send them home with a portfolio to be able to say, this is what I've done, this is what I've obtained, and this is what I can do for your hiring authority if you were to consider me for employment. The fourth area is we provide our inmate students with key information, strategies, as well as sponsorship to reach their academic, professional, and personal goals. Because once again, we cover the whole student and not just their educational needs. And the fifth area is influence them to maintain compliance and determine that they're programmatic compatible, meaning that they're coming to class, they're finishing the test, and they're finishing with a score 80% or higher, that they're mastering the materials and they're able to apply those materials outside of modeling, that they can show you how to do those things themselves, that they are utilizing those skills to the greatest ability possible. Because our programs would not be successful if they were not mastering the information and the tools and being able to apply them effectively. Any question about our Reach One, Teach One 5 reentry model? Thank you. And these are the reintegration initiatives that we do within our case management component. Like I was telling you about our key components, we determine their needs and their strengths. We develop case plans for each individual. We locate community resources that would be beneficial based upon the needs that we have identified. We develop treatment plans and we monitor the effectiveness so that we can align them with treatment initiatives outside of the prison at release. And then we reassess and measure the progress. So we don't just send them home and tell them to figure it out. We send them home with the plan, with things in place prior to them walking out of the gate. So we ensure that they also have the ability to collaborate and partner with community partners and stakeholders. They have the ability to go into our prisons and interview our individuals that are in our program, see them in their classroom settings, help them to establish on-the-job skills, as well as if they can't make it into the prison setting, we have monitors where they can do face-to-face Zoom monitoring interviews as well. We provide entrepreneurship workshops and seminars on financial literacy, for one. We do professional development. We do success plans, success coaching and goals. And we ensure that our inmate students obtain employment, apprenticeships, and continuing education options. They want to be able to enter college, whether it be TCC or any other educational component. We provide them with the means and help them to fill out those processes and prior to going home and fill out their applications. So we establish smart career development plans and portfolios for all the students enrolled in our programs, as well as those that we provide credentialing services to as well. Any questions about our reentry or reintegration initiatives or case management and success coach components? Thank you. I wanted to give you all a scope of the vocational programs that we offer. We offer GED, masonry, electrical, HVAC, and refrigeration, culinary, building trades, plumbing, as well as additional programs, CNC machining, welding, intensive reading, industrial pipe fitting, electrical apprenticeships, and power equipment technology. Any questions about our scope of vocational programs? In our community corrections, we also offer commercial vehicle driving, where inmate students, while still either in work release or on probation, are able to obtain their Class A CDLs. And we are happy to announce that we have our 4th cohort class that will be graduating December 2nd. So to date, we will have approximately 28 Class A CDLs that we have provided to justice-involved citizens in this area. Any questions about our programs? I wanted to give you an idea of how many certifications that we have provided. And I wanted to show you where we were in 2018 to 2020. Our credentialing bodies for our culinary program, we offer the ServSafe credential. We offer OSHA. We offer National Craft and Core Electrical and Research credential for those that want to go in manufacturing or construction. And then we also offer for our HVAC students, ESCO or EPA universal credential. From 2018 to 2020, ServSafe, we put 95 culinary certifications to flight. For masonry, 137. Carpentry, 82. OSHA, 302. For our electrical program at Gadsden, because we have 2 electrical programs and 2 apprenticeships, Jefferson, we had 129. And Gadsden, which was our newer one, we're having a graduation the first of next year, it was 33. Plumbing, 148, and HVAC, 101. And I wanted you all to see in comparison, this is where we began from 2018 to 2020. This is where we are now in comparison in 21. We are nearing that same amount. Our culinary program, our instructor left, so it was shut down for about 6 to 7 months. We just got back up and running, so that's where you're seeing the deficit there. But our other programs, whether it's masonry, we're almost there. From what we did in 2 years, this is what we've done in 1 year. Carpentry, it's a newer, it was one of our newer programs, and the instructor left there. We just hired someone else to put that one back on. So we're still showing just the 2018 to 20 information. Electrical, as you can see, in 2018, this is where we were with 162. We're at approximately 300 in 21. Plumbing, same aspect. By the end of the year, we will have exceeded that same amount. We have a brand new group that has come in there. HVAC, we lost our instructor. And so we have a new instructor that will be coming on in January, but still and yet we have earned that amount even without having an instructor present. In commercial vehicle driving, which is brand new, we will have of December 28 Class A CDLs. Any questions in regards to the data in regards to certifications between 2018 and 21? Well, this concludes my presentation. I believe that together we do make a difference. It's not just Tallahassee Community College. It's not just Florida Department of Corrections. It's everyone, the community, the stakeholders, the employers. We all make a difference in the lives of our justice-involved citizens. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, Faustina, I've heard about the program, and even though I work here and work with you, I am still so impressed by the work that you guys are doing. I'm so happy to be, honestly, happy to be your colleague and be able to say, this is the work that TCC is doing. This is the work that Faustina's team has done, and it is such a tremendous thing for, incarcerated individuals to have such, to have the opportunity to work with you guys and get these credentials, and you guys taking that model of, the whole person, that holistic view, and not just being concerned with the credential part, but being more so concerned with the individual, and then how, having those skills can help them in the workforce. So tremendous work that you guys are doing. I really, really applaud your efforts there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Not a problem. Does anyone have any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, this is John Woods out at Pensacola State College. I do got a question. I've been doing volunteer work in the prison now for about 13 years, and Santa Rosa and several other institutions. But one of the things that I've ran into is a resistance, especially if you have any type of courses that you want to teach that include tools, and that's because of the danger of that. Have you guys seen that same exact thing, or are all these things computer-based type of instructions?
Yes, sir. What we found, and generally if it's a class A tool, which means that it's a tool that can be used as a weapon, generally the process that we go through is we work with the security department and obtain clearance, which means that you provide them with the specifications, why it's going to be used, how you're going to use it, and they will provide you with a check-in and a check-out process, a tool inventory log.
Gotcha.
And once you are able to clear that, generally with the major or the assistant warden of operations, then they will have an officer that will provide you with those tools at the beginning of that course. And then you'll do your check-in system, your checkout system, which you provide them, and then you'll check them back in, and then they'll come back in and verify that. And you can provide them at the end of your course proof that those tools are turned back in. But generally, it's just being able to use a Class A tool as a weapon.
Yeah, because I know several of the institutes that I've been in, they've actually gotten rid of a lot of the vocational programs, unfortunately, and so bringing them back, you know, some of the wardens are very hesitant
I can tell you,
to
like,
bring
for
those in.
instance, with our welding programs, what I did, I purchased X-ray machines. I purchased machines for them to have, they would have to go in and out of those machines. There's no other exit, there's no other entrance. So they're, you know, oftentimes they just want to make sure that the security measures are heightened.
Yeah.
You know, welding programs, they're using all types of metal, you know, equipment, and same thing with our CNC machining, our HVAC. I mean, they're using major tools. It's just
Yep.
the check-in and check-out process with the tool inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. That's
You're
awesome.
welcome, sir. Thank you.
And Ms. McKinney, I have another question. This is Roger again from Miami-Dade College. What is the probability or possibility of scaling your program to other institutions across the Florida college system? Would
We're
that be something?
actually, yes, sir. That is something VP Moore and myself have been talking about, is turning not just this into a Florida guideline, but a statewide process. And we're open to work with other community colleges and to assist, because we do have, they call from Miami, they call from Broward, in regards to how we have, you know, developed our program. So definitely we are open and we're looking for those opportunities.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will put my information into the chat, where if anyone wants to get in contact with me or send an email, please feel free to do so. I'm always open to assist and help in any way possible. Any other questions? I provided both my direct line into my office as well as my cell phone and my email address. Please feel free, reach out. If we're able to help, we surely will. Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting today. We are so glad everybody could join us.
Thank
Let me
you.
end this.